Hello, this is the Verse Virtual July 2021 reading. If you did not want to come to that, then you're in the wrong place. But if you're here, I'm glad to see you anyway. And we have some good features for you. We're going to start with Cristina Norcross. What's MR stand for, Cristina?
The M stands for Maria,
Mm-hmm.
and the R stands for Raskoff, my maiden name.
So you have a lot of names.
Right.
And you can switch them up if you want to.
That's right. Even though I've been a Norcross for 25 years, I tried to honor my Raskoff heritage by keeping the initial in there. So.
Well, that's noble of you. Cristina comes from Wisconsin, and she's the author of 8 poetry collections, and she doesn't look old enough to have managed that many. She's the founding editor of Blue Heron Review and a Pushcart nominee. Her latest book is Beauty in the Broken Places from Kelsey Books, 2019. And she has a forthcoming chapbook, The Sound of the Collective Pulse, which will be released in fall 2021, also from Kelsey. Cristina's work appears in a few places like Visual Verse, Your Daily Poem, Verse Virtual, The Ekphrastic Review, and Pyrene's Fountains, among others, and a lot of anthologies. She's led community poetry projects, workshops, and hosted many readings herself. She's the co-founder of Random Acts of Poetry and Art Day, which is a lovely idea, Cristina. I like that. So take it away, Cristina.
Well, I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much, Robbi, for inviting me to be part of this wonderful feature with Neil and John. And I feel very fortunate to be here. Thank you to Jim Lewis for co-hosting and for inviting us all to be here via Verse Virtual. So I feel very fortunate and thankful to be here. And thank you for everyone for attending. So I thought I would start by reading, I wanted to primarily push my new collection, even though it hasn't been released yet. There aren't any books yet. Come October, I believe that's my tentative release date, The Sound of a Collective Pulse. But I thought I would start with just one sample poem from Beauty in the Broken Places. This was also published by Kelsey Books. And how wonderful that Neil and John are also both Kelsey Books authors. So that makes this a fun reading. I think that we have the same publisher in common. So I'll start with a poem called Go Find Her. There we go. Oops. Okay. Go find her. I'm saving a love letter for you, for the you who only sees mirrored flaws and faded, forgotten beauty. I'm saving you tender words of appreciation, for the you who counts imagined mistakes like pennies in a big glass jar, for the you who needs to be reminded of the sheer glory of your existence. I'm saving a love letter for your hands, the ones you fidget with when you worry. Let me hold them. Let me cover them with soft lambswool gloves. Let me celebrate what you have forgotten. For the you who holds lack like a beribboned brick parcel balanced on curved, burdened shoulders. Let me remind you that when you sing, leaves reach in earnest like reaching for the sun. For the you who blooms and bends just to provide someone the patience of a sea of grass. For the you who presses pause to say, thank you, or I see you. I am saving this love letter in my pocket in case you forget to cherish the self who walks in light with you, the one who embraces the fullness of your worth. Go find her. Real quick, I don't want to waste too much time with descriptions, but this collection was quite special because it was born out of an ekphrastic art and poetry exhibit at the Q Gallery in Stevens Point, Wisconsin. I was invited by the artist Erin Price Hinz to create a small collection of about 13 poems, which primarily she wrote artwork in response to the poetry, as well as other visual artists from the gallery. So the entire exhibit was a mixture of artwork and my poetry. And I was so inspired by the theme itself of how do we find beauty and strength in times when we feel challenged or in times of hardship, that theme carried me over for 3 years worth of writing. I think I wrote 65 poems all about beauty in the broken places. Only about, I think, 28 or 29 ended up in this book, but it took me on quite a journey that I'm thankful for. My next collection by Kelsey Books, which is coming out in October, was born out of the pandemic. I think many of us, who published the ekphrastic collection? So Robbi asked me. This was published by Kelsey Books. So I know many of us were either prolific or suffering from writer's block, or maybe a mixture of both. And another quick question with the artwork. Okay, so the only artwork from this collection is on the cover. This was by Erin Price Hinz. It's a mixed media. Unfortunately, the collection itself is just a collection of selected poems. So I don't have, the artwork isn't in here. They might, on the website for the Q Gallery, that if they have previous events listed, they might have sample artwork shown on the website there. So I'll jump ahead to The Sound of a Collective Pulse. When reflecting on what I've been writing over the past year and a half, I noticed that almost everything that I wrote was about how do we connect on a human level during a time when we can no longer hug one another, we can no longer shake hands. Wonderful opportunities such as this in the Zoom arena allows us to stay connected with other people. And so many of my poems were about that need to stay connected and our shared humanity. So the first poem I thought I would share was first published in Verse Virtual. So thank you very much to Jim Lewis for including this poem in one of the issues. This poem is called We Stitch Ourselves Together. You conjure with your hands the knitting together of days, finding comfort in simple tasks. Small strands of hope have replaced every familiar note on the piano. We mourn the loss of normal. We find new names for things. We rebirth ourselves as if planting trees, digging deep with unsure feet, beckoning growth. We find solace in building a new forest together. Our hands look different, more vulnerable. Our fingers sift days like flour. We move more slowly, breathing through cloth and appreciating oxygen like never before. We stitch ourselves together every morning with threads of resilience. This next poem, The Sound of a Collective Pulse, I chose that as the title for the collection itself. That's the title of the poem. This was first published in a journal called Poetry Hall. I don't know if some of you are familiar. They publish both the English version of a poem and then the Chinese translation on the other side of the page, which is quite unique. The Sound of a Collective Pulse. The news comes on, a stream of lightning bolt events. We feel the jolt of loss and destruction speed through the spine and every connected bone. This is what it means to ache. After 5 months of carefully navigating an unsure world, nothing feels the same. We cannot touch. We stand far apart. Home feels safer. This is what it means to fear the invisible foe. We connect through voice, word, and video. We learn to make time because all we have is time. We learn to stand still and drink in the vast expanse of unscheduled hours. This is what it means to exist. We sit together and feel the sky burst inside our chests. We listen to the sound of a collective pulse. This is what it means to hope. I'm a big fan of the online journal Visual Verse. I think many of you have had your work published there. Once a month, they offer up an ekphrastic prompt. I love Visual Verse. So this next poem is called The Quiet Hum of Existence, which I wrote in response to an image by Jemima Muir, which was a very fanciful looking drawing of a woman wearing very big, clownish yellow pants, a very fanciful outfit. And I decided she looked like lemonade. So, the quiet hum of existence. Her limbs are made of lemonade. She appears every night in my dreams, wearing circus pants to make me smile and watering my mind with fertile thoughts of what is possible. In March, we hit the pause button. Tomorrow has become a challenging concept. Why not dance today, she asks. Why not walk even if it's raining? My sleep time godmother keeps offering suggestions and I listen. She plants seeds for me and for many. I start to see familiar faces. Each strident walker and avid bicyclist has the telltale signs of someone who hears the same whispers. A green sprout here, a dangling leaf there. Everyone is connected by the growth of hope. We oil our joints like the Tin Man of Oz by walking. A newfound agility makes taking steps much easier. Some days we start from scratch with a new patch of earth. Other days we water the same rose, clip branches, help guide the new buds reaching for sunlight. The secret ingredient is movement, using one muscle at a time, a spinning wheel, a steady heartbeat, the quiet hum of existence. And I'll just read one more, and I hope I haven't taken up too much time. This is a poem called Breathing Peace. Oh,
yeah, actually,
okay.
You're sort of out of time right now.
Nope, I appreciate that. Apologies.
Okay. All right then. Sorry to cut you off, but our next reader is Neil Creighton. He's come here all the way from Australia to his own living room. And he's a poet with a deep love for family and passion for the environment and issues of justice and equity. His poetry books are Earth Music, Loving Leia, Awakening, Rock Dreaming, and a fifth book, Morteza, will be published by Kelsey Books. Surprise, surprise. So looks like 2 out of 3 at least. Kelsey reading here today. It will be published in January 2022. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Robbi, and everyone. I'm going to read today from my book, Rock Dreaming, which has as its subject First Nation people of Australia. And I'm going to read 3 poems. The first poem, one in the middle, and the second last poem. I'll read them pretty much without comment. I think they're self-explanatory by and large. And the first poem is called Rock. I walk past water gums, roots twisting and flowing over rock, cross the creeks, eddy and swirl, scramble up a long hill to stand on a huge expanse of rock. All around in the stone are carvings, kangaroos, emus, women, men, shields, spears, a spirit creature. Clans met here to dance, laugh, carve, belong. I try to see them, but only sense them dimly. Their culture and their songs have shrunk into the past. They are long gone. I lie on the rock and close my eyes. I am filled with loss for the changes of time, for the tangle of history, for the injustice of the present, the crimes of the past, its dislocation, theft, and murder. I know that where these long gone people once in such deep belonging roamed, my ancestors, England's rejects, came from the other side of the world and by force took it as their own. I begin the long walk back. I'm thinking of descendants now scattered in dispossession through the land of their ancestors. I'm thinking of a past that cannot be undone. I'm thinking of a future still yet to be made. I'm thinking of a great rock of truth on which, in reconciliation, we can carve old stories of horror. I'm thinking of how this nation can gouge a new and purer dreaming. First, stories must be told and remembered. Then, songs of new dreaming might be sung. And I guess that's one of the idealistic desires of my book, that songs of new dreaming might be sung. Dreaming, I'm kind of mixing the two ideas, the Aboriginal idea of the dream time, their origin stories, their connection to the land, their relationship to everything, and my more Western idea of dreaming as an idealistic pursuit, wishing things to be better. And that's the title of my book, Rock Dreaming. The second poem is called The Fallen Tree, and it's sort of a reminiscence and a recollection of my youth, particularly in relation to Indigenous people. The Fallen Tree. Hidden by reeds higher than my head, a huge old gum tree had long ago released its grip in the boggy ground and fallen across the narrow swamp. Now, every morning, my way to the two-roomed weatherboard school bypassed the mundanity of the road. I ran freely through the bush, past the smooth, pink-barked angofferas, down weathered sandstone outcrops, and over my secret bridge. I was maybe 9 or 10. At school, we learned about Indigenous people. Aboriginal people didn't own land. Aboriginal people offered no resistance to colonization. Aboriginal people lived a life of hunting and gathering. Aboriginal people dwelled in gunyas. All wrong. The myths of conquerors. But the most wrong of all was this: Aboriginality could be bred out in 3 generations. Then assimilation would be complete. There were no brown faces at our school. Later, much later, I found out why. For 60 years, Aboriginal children, as a matter of government policy, were kidnapped from their homes. I ran free through the bush. They were stolen on dusty roads or on their way to school. I daydreamed in class. They were denied an education and trained to be domestic servants. I ran home in full assurance that my parents would be there. Their parents were turned away from locked gates, many to never see their children again. I suffered occasional punishment. They were locked in solitary confinement. I received security and love. They were denied affection, beaten, and sexually abused. There is no making amends. Some things can never be made right. When those first boats sailed through the narrow heads and dropped their anchors in alien water, their cargoes were not just filled with England's unwanted, but with all the grief and ugliness of colonization and dispossession and all its concomitant, self-justifying myth-making. Those old myths I learned as a child were not sustainable. They grew in boggy ground. They had to eventually fall. What can come from their falling? Could it be verities strong enough to bridge myth's thick, matted reeds and history's stagnant swamp? Where is that place where all children can run freely through the bush, past smooth, pink-barked angophoras, down weathered sandstone outcrops, to walk together over our shared tree? The last poem I'm going to read is from the last poem in the book, and it's called The Vine That Will Not Die. I've been exploring all kinds of harder things, and in this poem, there's lots of references, and I can't spend all the time explaining the references. There is the poems in the book. This is sort of like a summary, if you like, of the poems in the book. So here it is: The Vine That Will Not Die. Here's to the vine that will not die. Here's to its root, branch, and leaf. Here's to its tendrils of hope. Here's to Gurindji Strike at Wave Hill Station. Here's to their spokesman, Vincent Lingiari. We want to live on our land our way. Here's to Eddie Mabo's Murray Island landmarks. Here's to his heritage, ownership, and words. This land belongs to me, not the crown. Here's to the justice of native title. Here's to the end of land-stealing fiction. Here's to the end of terra nullius, nobody's land. Here's to the descendants of the colonial wars. Here's to those of the stolen generation. Here's to their survival and strength. Here's to those who cannot be suppressed. Here's to artists, poets, playwrights, singers, dancers, musicians, sports people, actors, teachers, lawyers, doctors. Here's to their sense of community. Here's to kinship, sharing, and family. Here's to belonging to country. Here's to people that will not be defeated. Here's to the courage of common folk. Here's to the champions of hope. Thanks, everyone. I'll put my address up there. You know, anyone like a signed copy? $6 US, and I can post, that's the cost of mailing my book. So the book's $16. So anyone like it? I'll put the address up, you can contact me. Otherwise, it's available from Kelsey Books or Amazon and all those sorts of places. Thank you, Robbi. Thanks, James. Thanks all my dear friends for coming, and a lot of people I know through poetry.
Thank you. That was very moving, Neil, and I would love a copy. But as soon as you tell me how much the postage is going to be.
I did tell you that $6 US.
Yes, but the postage,
That's the postage.
Oh, really?
That's how much it costs to post, $6 US.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, for
Okay.
sure. So
Yeah.
you should put the information, the publicity, I mean, the URL to order it.
I'm pretty useless at that.
Okay.
I'm totally useless at it. But I'm going to put my address up here anyway, my email address. You can contact me.
Okay. And our third and last feature today is John Stanizzi, who has authored the poetry collections Ecstasy Among Ghosts, Sleepwalking, Dance Against the Wall, After the Bell, Hallelujah Time, High Tide, Ebb Tide, Four Bits, Chance, Sundowning, and Pond. His poems have appeared in such journals as Prairie Schooner, the Cortland Review, the New York Quarterly, Rust and Moth, Blue Mountain Review, Poet Lore, Rattle, and many others. His work has been translated into Italian and appears widely in Italy. He also writes nonfiction and publishes it too, and has served as a teaching artist for the National Poetry Recitation Contest, Poetry Out Loud. Take it away, John. John, are you there? Oh dear, he's disappeared.
There. Okay.
Oh, you're there,
He was
okay.
just muted.
Yeah. I forget the mute thing every time. I was just saying it's so nice to see people that I quote unquote know actually animate for the first time. I see Alan and you know, and James and Mary and Mary. So many folks, Betsy. So it's really nice to be here and to meet folks. I'm going to read 3 poems. The first 2 I'm going to read are from a forthcoming book. It's almost finished. It's a sort of an odd book. It's called Feathers and Bones, and it's a loosely constructed call and response book, and it's in formal verse. The call poem is in the form of a garland, and these were completely arbitrary choices. The call poem is in the form of a garland, and the response poem is a guzzle. And as it turns out, all 3 poems that I'm going to read tonight have to do primarily with jazz. The first pair, the garland and the guzzle, are sort of about Billie Holiday, but as I look at them, her presence is sort of peripheral. The poems really deal with a guy named Abel Meeropol, who was a New York high school teacher. And Abel Meeropol actually wrote the song Strange Fruit. He was heavily involved in the Communist Party, you know, in the early 60s, and he was the author of Strange Fruit. He brought his own primitive recording of it to a guy that he knew who owned the club. That guy happened to have a connection with Billie Holiday. Billie heard it, snatched it up, and literally the rest is history. But that's not the end of the story of Abel Meeropol. When the Rosenbergs were executed, the Meeropols adopted their 2 sons and raised them from small children. So it's just, and then there's the story of Billie Holiday embedded in there. So it's just it's pretty outrageous. So the first poem, the garland, the call poem, is "Don't Threaten Me with Love." And the epigraph is from Billie herself. Billie says, "I never hurt nobody but myself, and that's nobody's business but my own. Don't threaten me with love." And I refer to Prez. That's Lester Young. Billie Holiday named Lester Young Prez. Prez named Billie Holiday Lady Day. Prez named you Lady Day, Eleonora, an improvisational genius singing of the turbulences of youth, or what it's like behind bars, or even about what a little moonlight can do. April 7th, 1915, Philly, one of many birthdays for you, Billie. Clarence was 15, Sadie 13. One day, Clarence and Sadie threw you out, pregnant, Sandtown, Winchester at your back. Soon enough, Daddy left with his banjo and hit the road with Fletcher Henderson. Needing to be born again, you went south to the Millers, in-laws in Baltimore, on the road with no mama, no daddy. You managed to get through kindergarten, but not much further. And one Christmas Eve, when you were only 11, imagine a little girl so alone. You got caught having sex with a grown man. He was sentenced to jail, and you were sentenced to the Good Shepherd Home for Colored Girls. Did you dream you'd end up in a brothel? Or if, when you managed to sleep, you'd be dreaming all was fine and you a lady? Prez named you Lady Day, Eleonora. One of many birthdays for you, Billie. Needing to be born again, you went south. Imagine a little girl so alone, dreaming all was fine, and you a lady. So that's the garland. Thank you very much. And then the guzzle, as I said, is a very loose response. It's called A Fractured History of Strange Food. And it begins with an epigraph from Abel Maripol, from Strange Fruit. Here is a fruit for the crow to pluck, for the rain to wither, for the wind to suck, for the sun to rot, for the trees to drop. Here is a strange and bitter cup. A fractured history of strange fruit. We killed the spies. No one said delicate, strange fruit. I'm sad about the children. Exquisite, strange fruit. In a photo that haunted Abel for days, Abel Maripol held by pestilent, strange fruit. Abel graduated in 1921, DeWitt Clinton in the Bronx. Germinate, strange fruit. Other big stars, Burt Lancaster, Neil Simon, quite the high school, Ralph Lauren, elegant, strange fruit. The photo was of black men hanging dead from trees. For this young communist, no room for rank, strange fruit. Abel stayed to teach English at DeWitt Clinton, but racism slew him. He caught its scent, strange fruit. Though his brain had turned to iron, he could still write a poem. Do not underestimate strange fruit. When the poem was done, he set it to music, and the bar owner dug the malignant strange fruit. The club owner played it for Billie, who loved it. Memories of her pop's death, a poignant, strange fruit. He suffered from fatal lung disease and died. The hospital closed to blacks. repellent, strange fruit. Billy disliked performing it. It was too sad, but she did. Racism lives on. Rodent, strange fruit. The club goers were mostly made up of white folks who clapped till their hands hurt at this pendant, strange fruit. Others hated it and walked out the door on her. They refused to stand for this repellent, strange fruit. But what a mystical sight. March of '39, West Fourth's Cafe Society. Silent, strange fruit. Waiters ordered to stop serving. The lights blacked out. One spotlight on Billy's face. In spirit, strange fruit. She was just 23 when she stepped to the mic. Blood on the leaves, blood on the root, pungent, strange fruit. Black body swinging, southern breeze and bitter crop. When she was done, her light went out, expunged, strange fruit. Patrons stood in black dark, wondering what happened. The lights came up. Billy was gone. Lucent, strange fruit.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you very much. That's the so that's the way the book goes. It's got a what I call
Thanks.
all form.
Very powerful. Thank you so much. An interesting combination of features. Very powerful work. Next up are the people on our open mic. And we're going to start with Jim Lewis.
Okay, I'm unmuted. This is the cover of my manuscript that I'm trying to get published. And the two poems I'm going to read are from this. The first one connects directly to my life in healthcare, although it may not seem like it at first. It's called My First Time. This is my first confession about my very first time. Don't be angry if I'm clumsy or embarrassed if I'm explicit. I remember it so clearly. The way she led me to the bed, whispered softly, "It will be okay." Trembling, I placed my stethoscope on her patient's bare chest. Thump, 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 thump. She swore she saw heaven and hell reflected in my eyes as that heart abruptly stopped beneath my hands. And the second poem deals with some of the ugly effects of depression, specifically as it relates to acknowledging one's own talent. And I titled this, I Cannot Take Your Compliment, because my mother's ghost is hovering, reminding me of all the times I failed to meet her expectations, right or wrong. Her stern admonitions are ringing endlessly. Do not be proud or lift it up. Your talent isn't you, it is a gift. Because I hear my own voice chanting, imposter, imposter, you will be found out. Use all the pretty words you want. In the end, everyone will know it was just luck that arranged them in those lines from time to time. Because my mind's projector runs nonstop, Super 8 film minus sound, playing back every evil choice, every selfless service missed, hateful teasing of helpless siblings. Because acknowledgement and thanks would require admitting to myself that I am more than I see in the mirror, more than I have any right to be, more than my depression will allow.
Thank you, Jen. Famous last words. Our next person on the open mic is not here. Rosemary didn't make it today, and I know that she had so wanted to. So I hope that she's okay, and we'll go on to Anita Lerek.
Hi. My first poem is entitled Thursday, August 31. Lest, and as the epigraph, lest we should see where we are, lost in a haunted wood, children afraid of the night. W.H. Auden in his poem entitled September 1, 1939. Today there are no bleeding trees. Stars are still breathing. I steady the ladder for you, Father, to climb higher. I know you see another language of undivided sky. You touch the bones holding up shivering walls to hang up a new sign, to cover up old voices, leather goods, Jewish store, Warsaw. Then to the park, the five of us, scampering out into the light, as if naked, no camouflage, as if breaking into a private country. A Polish finger pushes us forward. Baby carriage, picnic basket, fishing rod, violin, spirits. The pond is filled with tree frogs croaking, clasping one another, glistening rain bodies that need to breed, floating lilies of thousands of eggs. So many summer lives beginning, our lives nowhere, just here, storing radiance for the coming frost. Father, you splash water on us and call out hallelujahs, then dance us back to tomorrow's shrieking heavens with rock and flesh formations just seconds old. Our earth invaded, horizons slaughtered, sirens start and stop. You are not there. In cities of hate, trills rise from undergrounds of marbled greens and browns. Creatures lie with trees, biology stilled, lips mark time, conversing with ponds. After the freeze, let us back in. The end.
Thank you.
That was inspired by W.H. Auden, so I did the day before. And this is my second one, if there's time for it. This is more timely, but I won't give it away till the end. This is for you, and the title is after Leonard Cohen. Anybody heard of that poem? No. My hand seizes the sunlight to inscribe my image into feathery lines tongued into concrete. Shadow stretches from ground to sky like an almighty child possessing all she sees. Cracks or pores in the road's skin. See the sweet honeycombs. Lie of the photograph. Honeycombs, bits of concrete failing to adhere, and blisters skitter along the pavement, once whole, much as we were bonded once. Willow words seeped into unspoken selves. Night flowers. We were twigs, survivors of forsaken trees, as if regrowing. Then smashed the next day, returned to hungers, towers of striving to keep warm, keep moving, coding ferocity into breathing. I pulled you into my need, my own morsels, eat more cracks form, gratitude flees. Parts break off, crumble. Daughter, friend, neighbor, stranger, where have you gone? Tap around with a hammer, drag a screwdriver across, detect the weaknesses, drill down further to words broken, waiting to be restrung, pasted together to create a cadence that builds to fill the silence. Can you hear me? Come for me through willows, come for me through concrete, guide my mouth in prayer along the cracks. How were we before? Answer me. in memory of Chaplain Towers South, June 24, 2021.
Thank you so much, Anita. Our next reader, if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please tell me, is Sha Huang.
That's a perfect pronunciation, Robbi.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I think this is my first time to see some of you reeling faces, and I really appreciate this chance to meet some of you. And on Facebook, my name is Rose Huang, and so some of you may remember, yeah. And I really appreciate this community because my first English poem, I think, published in the United States actually is by Verse Virtue. And I just had begun, I think, publishing in English journals in United States, I think in last year. And Verse Virtue is the first journal and community that accepted me. So that's really, James, thank you so much for this inclusive community. Yeah, so I would like to share some of my poems here. The first one I would like to share is titled Gravity. Actually, is myself, I also practice a little bit painting watercolor. So this is a poem inspired by one of my watercolor painting. Okay. Like Cristina, I know that you like to link art and poems, which is also what I like to do. Okay. Gravity. In January, all innocent colors have to die again. Trees hold up their skeletons. Black fingers reach down to fish their own ghosts in the swamp. Wild berries have fallen to the ground. Their blood has dried out, ruining the mellowest black in the mud. Do you know that if we mix all primary colors, we will get black? A color that lives on all colors, a color with gravity that draws and engulfs. That explains why, when looking into a dead well, you're always tempted to fall freely into its dark core. Okay, the second one I would like to share is about, it's actually something related to, I think, my dad who passed away 20 years ago. So it's about loss. But I think like every loss in the life, it brings us something, strong inside. Those losses, inevitable, were by chance. Mom's old cat died. He died of old age at our old house in Chengdu. I remember that cat. He came in when Dad passed away, with long white hair and a bad temper. He used to purr on Mom's laps. Mom's voice was trembling. How many losses, inevitable, were by chance, are we experiencing in this long life? Old toys, a lost umbrella, teeth, hair, something, someone. Journals, pictures, gravestones, fallen leaves, they're still part of the body. Fertilizer, birthmarks, scars, another eye, another ear. They're now silent, way irresistibly, keep growing, sprouting, blooming, listening to the natural instinct. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much and welcome. Welcome to our community and to English poetry. Do you write poetry in Chinese too?
Yes, I think years before I all write in Chinese. So this is the new try, I think, beginning last year.
Yeah.
And I just recently received one of my books published in China, and it's the bilingual one actually. So I translated some of my Chinese poems and made them into a bilingual version. And it's published in a journal, I think, publisher in Hong Kong, Macau. So
There are some bilingual journals here in the United States that publish Mandarin, I think,
oh,
and English. So you should look out for them. And I can explain another time where you might look.
thank you.
All right. Thank you very much and welcome. Now we've got one of our great venerable editors here, Michael Minassian, and it's good to have him.
Hi, thanks, Robbi. I think that's the first time I've been called venerable. I have to think about that title.
Well,
Anyway,
because you have been around since the beginning of this journal.
yeah, I guess. Okay. I kind of like it. So I'm going to read from my new book, A Matter of Timing. It's just published this summer. And I often like to take characters, whether from literature or real life or mythology, and pluck them out of history and put them in modern times and see what happens to them. I've done that with Marie Antoinette and Houdini and Frida Kahlo and King Lear and Cordelia. And in this book, I've got poems about Medusa and Icarus, Mother Teresa. And I'm going to read Joan of Arc at the beach. She appears confused, standing at the water's edge, waves teasing her ankles, voices from beneath the water telling her to assemble an army. Perhaps she will gather children with buckets and plastic shovels, constructing castles with tremendous battlements, red and blue flags, white towels and bathing suits. Becoming aware of families spread out in uneven circles, up and down the beach, picnic baskets, coolers, umbrellas, God's voice itself piercing her like a bad sunburn. Dizzy with the heat and glare off the surf, she dreams of battles, the betrayal of kings and popes. Perhaps she thought she could trace Alexander's army all the way to India. That cloud overhead shaped like the submerge of ancient Persia, a giant bird with the head of a dog, claws of a lion, and a human face. Not unlike the angels who surrounded her as she burned at the stake. Remembering her past life and death, falling stupefied back onto the sand, her head held back as if looking into the planetarium of the past. The sky somehow the same, the leap of flame, the burn of the stars. Okay. And the second poem, shorter. This is called Wings. In the raw egg of morning, acoustics ripple like a falling lake. Wrens in the backyard take turns eating at the feeder. Mates call to each other with voices that could seduce machinery or a drop of rain. I try to speak to them, recite poetry, sigh and whistle. I affect my grandmother's accent, use broken English, French phrases, pretend to be a statue, hold my arms out stiff to the side, close my eyes. Still, we cannot communicate beyond the simple, hello, I'm hungry, feed me, stay away, fly. Later, I fall asleep standing up, feel my knees bending the wrong way, vestiges of wings erupting from my back. Birds delight in impersonation, imitating each other's sounds. Yet I wonder, what do they dream when they see a man with wings? Thank you.
What a great last line. Thank you so much. I love the concept, and there's such wonderful phrases in there too that I too many to keep up with. Our last reader at the open mic, and then I usually would ask people to make up for those who didn't come, but I have to get to the veterinary hospital to pick up my cat before it closes. So I will end with Mary McCarthy, and she's always a welcome reader at our open mic. Mary?
Trying to, oh, there we go. Can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, I can hear
now.
you. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, this one's a little bit lighter. Thank you all. It's so nice to see everybody and hear these poems that I might have read before, but to hear them in the original voices is just wonderful. Okay, you're going to recognize the character that's talking here. Title of the poem is About That Ball. Don't trust what the story says. Those shoes weren't made to fit anyone. Imagine dancing in them, tilted up and forward, always just about to fall, trip, lose your balance, end up flustered, upended in someone's lap or arms. Your gait all unnatural, just another dainty hobble on the order of the exotic, bound foot, broken bones and separating flesh hidden in exquisitely embroidered tiny shoes. Those slippers made of glass, so impractical, clicking across the floor, knowing one misstep could shatter them into 1,000 sharp splinters that cut your soles to ribbons as you walk. If this is all the gift I get, my one-way ticket out of the ash heap, I'll take a pass. Go scout out some other road, some detour, find some good hiking boots, running shoes, soft moccasins that let me feel the earth my foot strikes strong and solid, moving to some new end, far from that old story's final step. I had a little fun with that one. And this one here is more on the order, if you think back to the readings tonight, so many of them were talking about hope, finding hope, holding on to hope, looking for hope. This one's called Lost and Found. Last night, I missed my favorite gold chain, the one with the crab charm we bought first time at the beach. And I took the house apart, room by room, unable to believe it was gone. Sorting through pots and seeds in the cellar, I found my last year's amaryllis there in the dark where I'd left it, cut back down to the bulb and forgotten. It had put up a long, pale white stem and a huge, half-open, silk red flower, disregarded, without light, without water, resurrected from its own root, waiting for me like a pledge of unexpected hope. Thank you.
Hope.
Thank you so much. It's always wonderful to have you read. I love reading your poems, and it's even better to have them read by you. So thanks, everybody. This was almost all of our readings bring us some new people, as well as people who are returning to the open mic and to the feature. So thank you so much. And I guess I'm going to go to the veterinary hospital and pick up my cat now.
Hope she's doing better, Robbi.
I don't know. We'll have to see. Apparently he's quite obese, and I don't know why, because I certainly don't feed him very much.
Shall I give you a ring of hope here? One more?
No, yeah, thank you. All right, so long, folks.
Good night,
So
Robbi.
long,
Good night,
Robbi. Thank you very
everybody.
much, everyone. Nice to
Yes,
see you
good night.
all.